7:44, and since last week's mass shooting in San Bernardino, California, the gun debate in this country has come back into the headlines on the Hill and in social media. Some people saying that if someone at the San Bernardino facility had a gun on them, this could have been avoided. Well, here's what the president of Liberty University had to say.
If some of those people in that community center had what I've got in my back pocket right now, if more good people had concealed carry permits, then we could end those Muslims before they walk in and kill us.
Well, here to give us his perspective this morning is the Executive Director of Gun Owners of America, Larry Pratt. Larry, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
Good to be here.
So tell us, when you hear Jerry Falwell Jr.'s statements there at the convocation at Liberty University, just not too far away in Lynchburg, what do you think about what he had to say?
Well, I was very happy to hear a leading educator in the country, probably one of the largest online private colleges in the country, but maybe 15,000 on campus, which is really what we're talking about, saying you got to be able to protect yourself. And he has made it clear that Liberty University is open to people with a concealed carry permit. So unlike many institutions of higher education or education, he's inviting people to be able to protect themselves. And I think it's an admission that neither the campus security nor the Lynchburg police are going to be adequate to handling everybody's personal security. You're on your own until the cops get there, and that could be minimum 5 minutes, and it could be longer.
But does that pose a problem if you have more guns in a situation where maybe somebody who isn't trained in using a gun, maybe it'd pull a trigger and later find out it wasn't a situation that they thought it was?
Well, theoretically, that could happen. It has not. And as far as we're able to tell, even in a self-defense situation where an apartment was invaded and there were several women and several men, one woman was injured by a self-defense shooter, but then they were able to overcome the attacker. So we haven't heard of any complaints from the person that was wounded, because it was almost certain from what was being said by the attackers she was going to be dead had they not been able to resist.
Yeah. You know, Larry, we hear what happened in San Bernardino last week, such a tragedy, and according to police reports, the two shooters had high-powered assault-type weapons, and there are a lot of people who are saying those need to be banned, that the normal person should not be able to get that type of weapon. What do you say to that? Well,
there's a ban on those kinds of firearms that we think of. In California, it was overcome by some devices, and they had handguns as well. The fact of the matter is they were in a room, in a building, and if someone or more than one person had a handgun, they very likely would have either been able to strike the attackers or throw them off their game, because I'm familiar with one case where a couple of attackers came onto a stage in a large church, and as soon as they heard gunshots coming from somebody in the audience, they were gone. So once they have the unexpected, that often changes the game. But if you just consigned to sitting there and waiting for a bullet, that's the worst plan.
Well, let me ask you this, though, and not to get into changing the amendment, but in terms of if there's someone who actually is already on a restricted list or any kind of terrorism list, and we had this last week, can still walk into a gun store and purchase a gun. Can't we prevent those people who are already on a list that we're concerned about, prevent them from gaining guns and prevent the situation, or hopefully to curtail it in the first place?
Well, those lists are at best problematic. Senator Kennedy got on the watch list, terrorist watch list, 2 or 3 times. And because he was a senator, he was able to, with difficulty, get his name off. We don't really know how you get your name on there. There's no due process. That's the problem. If we really have concern about somebody, let's get them in court, and if we can prove the case, let's put them in jail. That makes us all safer when we're getting them off the streets.
But and real quick, and we got 20 seconds left. In the meantime, we can't arm everybody with guns tomorrow, but we can't take away guns from the bad guys, because we need a court system to identify those bad guys. How do we curtail these things happening in the meantime?
Get yourself a concealed carry permit and have the means for your own protection available. That's the only thing you can do.
But we can't. What if we can't do that right away?
You can do it pretty quickly. In Virginia, it's not hard at all. Now, Maryland, maybe you ought to move.
Okay. Okay. All right.
All right, Larry Pratt, Gun Owners of America, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Good to see you again.
Good to
okay.
see you.
Thanks so much.